This video I'm gonna speak about my thoughts on Jeremy Lin's Dreadlocks. There's a video out there that I saw on YouTube showing him having dreadlocks. You know, he's like one of the very first and probably only Chinese American in the NBA, right? So he has dreadlocks, and some player, forgot his name, um, was upset about that. Some, African American basketball player, and he was saying, saying, that he shouldn't be doing that, and it's not right, or whatever the case may be, and then Jeremy Lin responded. This was like a Twitter thing that was going on, and I really liked Jeremy Lin's response. I don't have it word for word, but I'll put the video in the description section of this video so you can try to check it out and see for yourself. But basically, Jeremy Lin was saying, this is not a sign of disrespect. They said that he asked, his players, his teammates, if they'd be okay with it, and he was thinking about it for weeks or something, and then they all gave him, they said they wouldn't have a problem with it, so he, make sure that people felt okay about it, and then he thought a lot about it, and then he decided to do it. And his response was a really good response. Like, the person that fired at him pretty much was basically being very aggressive and more disrespectful. But Jeremy Lin came back with a response that was very respectful, intelligent response, and a humble response. He's basically saying, look, I'm not doing this out of disrespect. I'm doing this out of respect for your culture, and saying, pointing out to the guy that wrote the Twitter comments saying, hey, you got Chinese tattoos on yourself, of Chinese characters on your arm or whatnot. And the guy, he just made the person look kind of stupid. Because he's like, here you complaining about dreadlocks that I'm having, but then you go ahead and have Chinese character tattoos on yourself, when somebody has that, it could be, it's like a sign of appreciation for that culture. So here you have, a Chinese American and then an African American. They shouldn't be bumping heads. They should be working together, and they're basically on the same team. The African American can learn to appreciate the Chinese culture. The Chinese American can learn to appreciate the African culture, and that, it's a beautiful thing. When they talk about like cultural appropriation or whatever word they're using about this, they're talking mainly about white people that are basically taking things from certain cultures and maybe exploiting it, profiting off of it. There's a big thing with the Jenner girl, whatever, just wearing like a t-shirt with Tupac on there or something like that, and changed her face or something and put her face on there. I mean, something like that. Something about Biggie and Tupac and her putting her face on them, and there's just a big thing about it. And then there's some Pepsi commercial or something like that where they're doing like some type of Black Lives Matter protest, and then she comes in there with a Pepsi, and then everybody's all rejoicing after that. I mean, they're really upset at her. I mean, that right there, stuff like that is wrong. But when you're talking about stuff like this, where you got another minority, Jeremy Lin, who's Chinese American, that's, wearing dreadlocks, I mean, he explained it, and his reasonings behind it make sense. Even though I wouldn't do that myself, I mean, to me it looks kind of silly, but now that I know his reasonings and why, it makes sense. And it does kind of open up discussion, and really, when you're of a different culture, no matter if you're Chinese, you're African, or you're Thai, or you're Korean, or some other culture outside of America, Um, it's a beautiful thing when you come together with different cultures and with respect, and where you appreciate each other's cultures. And one thing that I want to mention about Jeremy Lin is like, there's very few Chinese Americans out there in the mainstream that you can really be influenced by. And from what I've seen of Jeremy Lin, from aside from his basketball playing, you know, his interviews that I've seen, he's a very well-spoken person. He's a very educated person, very intelligent person, and there's a lot that could be learned from this person that people should open their eyes to. Another thing about him that really amazes me is that he's a graduate from Harvard University. So not only is he in the NBA, but he also has a degree from Harvard, and to me that's an amazing accomplishment. Not just in regards to his race, but just in general. No matter if he's white, black, or Chinese, if somebody could graduate from Harvard and make it to the NBA, to me that's absolutely an amazing accomplishment, because not only you don't have just a lopsided development, you have more of a holistic development. When I talk about that whole body, mind, and spirit, that's kind of an example of that. So the body would be his basketball abilities, his skill sets, and then the mind would be his intellectual development, which would be his, represented by his degree from Harvard. And then the spiritual would be, the heart that he has within, his compassion, his humbleness. And it's some things that I noticed about him. He's a humble person. He doesn't go around bragging about his degree and all that other stuff and putting himself above other people. That's another thing he put into his comment, is that he had a poster up with this person. He looked up to this person that shot back at him like that, And eventually this person ended up taking down his comment because he probably realized how stupid he looked. Here he's talking all this trash about this Chinese guy wearing dreadlocks, but, and this guy used to look up to him. And this guy appreciates his culture. And in addition, this guy that's complaining about it has Chinese characters on his tattooed on himself. He just looks very stupid at that moment. And I think that Jeremy Lin is somebody that's worth looking up to in certain respects, not just for the Chinese American, because there's so much of a lack of role models out there for Chinese Americans. And this is not Yao Ming. That's another thing I want to bring up. Yao Ming is a Chinese man. They imported him from China to play in the NBA because he was super tall, but he's Chinese. He's born in China, speaks Chinese, and that's just who he is. He's like a Jackie Chan, a Jet Li. They're Chinese. But Jeremy Lin is almost like a Bruce Lee, who's like Chinese American. Jeremy Lin went to college at Harvard University. He speaks English like very well. He's like born in America. So this is not the same as Yao Ming. This is a person that's actually representing Chinese Americans, which is very rare. You could literally just point out the people that are the pioneers for Chinese Americans within certain fields. It would be like, for Hollywood, it was Bruce Lee, and that's pretty much it. And then for the rap, it would be Jin, who's Chinese American, and that's it. And then now for the NBA, it's like Jeremy Lin, and that's it. But not only is he an inspiration for Chinese Americans, but also inspiration for all people to be able to make it to the NBA with that sort of degree, not just any degree, not just a college degree from a college or a community college. I mean, this is a top university, and then everybody's looking up to people like LeBron James, who just drops out of or drops out of, didn't even go to college. I mean, he just went straight to the NBA from high school, and that's the thing about a lot of these professional athletes that is very it's a lack of development within them. Basically, just a failure of developing themselves intellectually and even spiritually. Like, all they care about is how good they are in their respective sport, and then everybody's just going straight to the NBA out of high school. It doesn't matter what grades that they have or how stupid they are, as long as they're good at the sport, and they just go in there. I mean, it's just more and more of that, and here, these are the people that are making all this money, getting all this attention from people, and then they're being interviewed by the masses. I mean, these are the people that need to be educated. These are the people that need to be developed spiritually. These are the people that are put in a position where they have a powerful influence. And without intelligence, without spirituality, it can become a danger for society. It can be harmful for society. So the more educated these people are, the more spiritually developed, the better position they'll be into helping the masses. And honestly, I think when people go to the professional level, I think, according to my eyes, in order to make it to the NBA, in order to make it to the NFL or to any professional league, it'd be nice to say, hey, all you guys need PhDs, minimum, in order to get into this league. Then it'd be filled up with more intelligent people, and then it requires a higher standard, just like, I just saw this movie called The Blind Side, with Sandra Bullock, and in that movie, they're to get that scholarship, that college scholarship, you had to have like a minimum GPA or something like that. So before you can even step onto the basketball court in high school or something, there's supposedly supposed to be some type of minimum GPA. I mean, all I'm saying is, like, raise the standard for the intellectuality, so then people are not just so focused on the physical. It's like a person shouldn't be able to just go into the NBA without going through any schooling at all. Like, no junior high, no elementary, no high school, just straight to the NBA with zero intelligence. Can't even read a book. Doesn't know how to write. Doesn't know how to speak. Doesn't know anything about history, doesn't know anything about science, doesn't know anything about math, doesn't know anything about nothing. He's just, intellectually underdeveloped, and you just throw him into a professional sporting league. I mean, I think there's just too much emphasis on the one-sidedness of athletics. There should be more emphasis on balancing out, intellectuality and physical development. So say the professional league, the NBA, for example, said, hey, all right, in order to even make it to the NBA, you need to have at least a bachelor's degree. Then it makes all the professional athletes have to develop their intelligence more in order to get in there. Just like being a police officer, right now they're saying, oh, you need at least a associate's degree. Okay, so then at least there's some type of standard that they gotta go by. And these people are making all this money, in the NBA. You should require more out of them from the intellectual aspect, so So then the people that are representing the NBA have more intelligence, and then when these interviews are being conducted, they're gonna have a potentially a better influence over the people. So it should be like, hey, in order to make it to the NBA, just to make it here, you need a bachelor's. And in order to be in the starting lineup, you need at least a master's. It should be something like that. Or in order to make it to the NBA, you need a master's, and then to get into the starting lineup, you need at least a PhD. So then, it's not just a bunch of stupid people all over the athletics, and it forces the people that need education the most to focus on that. And in addition, the people that strive, that look up to these role models, so-called role models, now they're going to be more motivated to develop areas in themselves that are underdeveloped. My biggest inspiration obviously is Bruce Lee. And one of the biggest benefits from being inspired by Bruce Lee is not, he's just super cut, he's super fit, he's super strong. I mean, it's not just that. I mean, the guy had, they say, over 2,000 books in his library. He at least went to college. He didn't graduate with a bachelor's or anything, but he went for like 2 years for philosophy. So he at least went to college. He's very intelligent. I mean, you can see in his movies and then in his writings, his books are the biggest inspirations for me. Like I learned so much from his books, not just his movies, but his books. And he considered himself a philosopher. He's the one who inspired me to start studying philosophy, Eastern philosophy. I mean, it was in his intelligence and his spirituality that was the greatest influence for me. And that's basically what I'm saying, is that these professional athletes, they need to serve to be something more than just people that are skillful in athletics and that's it. There needs to be more representativeness, a representation of intelligence out there and spirituality. As far as Jeremy Lin is concerned, I do see, a very well-developed intelligence within him, and also a spiritualness with him, a humbleness with him, and a part of him that is different from this culture, that this culture could learn from. The Chinese part of him. And his physical development is not like a Michael Jordan or LeBron James or whatever, and it's gonna take a lot of hard work on that end in order to develop himself to get more recognition for his, basically just his presence. But he also serves to be inspiration for Chinese Americans out there. To be a pioneer. And like, people be like, some people that are jealous might be like, why are they giving him all this attention? He's not even that good. They only give him attention because he's Chinese. But it's like, but then when the attention is coming to you because of your race, you're completely fine with that. I mean, and that's how it goes in this world. I mean, it's a race. People look at other people based on race. Like, you might not think that that's the right thing to do, but that's what everybody's doing. So when Barack Obama became president, it was a big deal because he's the first black president. Imagine if they just completely ignored that. Who cares about race? No, I mean, you got to recognize that this is the first black president. This is a big thing. It is a big thing. And then in the rap industry, it's all blacks, and then all of a sudden Eminem comes in there. And they're like, whoa, it's a big thing because this is the first white rapper. So now that there's the NBA and it's full of all blacks and whites, and now a Chinese American gets in there, it's a big thing. You know, and it should be seen as a big thing. And if it's not, then there's something wrong there. Because the world is set up in that way. They make a big thing. The world makes a big thing about race. That is very clear. That's why there's the whole Black Lives Matter. That's why, you know, it's a big thing when police officers are just killing black people. White police officers just killing black people out of nowhere. It's a big thing because there's a racial separation within this culture, within this society. So it clearly is a big issue in the way people view others. So when one Chinese American makes it to the NBA and he's decently good, and in addition he has a Harvard degree on top of that, that's a huge thing. And he should be given credit for that, an immense amount of credit and respect. You know, as I stated, I honestly feel nobody even deserves to be in the NBA or NFL or any professional league for that matter if they can't even get a college degree. Let's say a 4-year degree. Because if the average person like me and everybody else out there that just to get a decent job they need a 4-year college degree, then all these professional athletes should have that shit too. Because they're getting paid all this money, but you're telling me that you can't go to school like everybody else? You know, it forces more quality into these professional leagues. Rather than just be like, hey, you know, you could come to the NBA. We don't care how stupid you are. We don't care if you have no degree. We don't care what scores you get in your SAT or ACT. Or, you know what? School doesn't matter. But you know what? When you let these people into the NBA or any of these professional leagues, you're teaching everybody that looks up to them to be like them. And chances are 99% of the population, 99.99% of the population, they're not going to make it to the professional league. But they're being inspired by these stupid people. You know, and I don't care for athletics because it's full of arrogance and stupidity. Rarely do you even find intelligent people in athletics. And when you do, that is something that should be recognized. You know, because we shouldn't be so one-sided into just admiring somebody because of their physical and then nothing else. We don't care if they have no brains. I mean, that's the whole thing that I had problem with the cage fighting and the boxing. It's like not only are they already like they have like lack of intelligence by even getting involved in a sport, but then you keep bashing them onto the head and jolting their brains, and then their memory is even getting worse. Their brain's even getting worse. And then you're looking up to these people. You're being influenced by these people. They tell you what to buy and then you buy it. They tell you what to do and then you do it. But then there's no intelligence behind it. There's no wisdom behind it. And then you become just as stupid as they are, if not worse. And we don't need any of that. So it's not just about Jeremy Lin being Chinese American and okay, let's be inspired by him just because of his race. No. It's Jeremy Lin being Chinese American, being able to share a part of his Chinese culture, be able to be very well educated, be more well educated than 99% of the population out there, and in addition, being spiritually grounded, you know, and being naturally humble within his expression. There's a lot that could be learned from this person, and this is a person that's worth learning from. You know, not just so focused on, oh, you know, the Kobe Bryant, the Michael Jordan, LeBron James, okay? Like, all the people care about is how good they are in the game of basketball. But when it comes to analyzing the other facets of a person's total development, are they actually serving to be good role models? And in my eyes, these people that are in positions of power, they need to be further developed within their intelligence and their spirituality because of how much of influence they have over this world. So if you got a LeBron James who's inspiring so many millions of people, it would be better if LeBron James had a PhD or a master's degree or at least a bachelor's degree than a LeBron James who just goes straight, who didn't even go to college at all. It's better if LeBron James is very well educated. He reads books every night and he reads like 100 books a year, than to be somebody who doesn't read anything at all, who just drinks alcohol all the time, smokes weed, shoots crack, smokes crack, like doesn't care about anything else. Like, it's better to have a LeBron James that's more educated, more spiritual, more grounded, because he's in a position of power, a power of influence over the people. And the more developed that he is, the more holistically developed he is, the better it is for the people. And Jeremy Lin is not going to be as good as LeBron James on the court. But as far as his holistic development is concerned, his kung fu, his body development, his mind development, and his spiritual development, he's a lot more developed than LeBron James ever would be, or Michael Jordan, or Kobe Bryant. And this person would serve to be a better role model for the people. Than somebody who's just so one-sided in their development. And as a culture, as a society, we need to implement a higher standard when it comes to our, our entertainers and our athletes. I mean, that's the way that I see it. And and I just hope that that we all learn to develop more holistically. And that we learn from different cultures. That it's not just black and white and that's it. The Chinese Americans, they need a stronger voice out there and more of an impact out there. Because there's a lot that can be learned from the Eastern ways, from the Chinese culture. And the more different cultures that we get involved and that we learn from, the greater that we can all become. And it's sad that there's not that many influences out there from the Chinese culture, but the few influences that there are out there, I just hope that the people can get the most out of it that they can. Because it's a direct contrast of how it is in America. And you have to learn to see the benefits from a different perspective, the positives. And I think Jeremy Lin is one of the people out there that's really put in a position where he can inspire people, just like Bruce Lee was able to inspire people. To be the only Chinese American to ever make it into Hollywood and gain so much respect from the people. Jeremy Lin's in a position where he's like the only Chinese American to make it to the NBA and potentially maybe gain the respect of the people. And it is sad, that people put so much of influence on the physical, and that puts more motivation and reason for him to develop his physical to become the best that he can be, so that he could have the greatest influence over the people within the context of the NBA. So I hope that he keeps developing himself, and I hope that there's more people out there that learn to respect him. Because he, at this moment in the NBA, he's representing the Chinese, the Chinese American. And I hope that he continues to develop and grow.